So I'm having a conversation on Twitter with some of my fellow Christians. Yeah, sometimes I talk to Christians. It's not just atheists. Most of the times I chat with atheists, but every once in a rare while I will chat with my fellow Christians. And they're having a conversation about the prophetic ministry, the character of Christ, and Kim Clement, of all people. Now, if you're an atheist, you probably do not believe in such a thing as prophetic words and a prophetic ministry at all. Let's just get that out of the way right off the bat. But what one of the persons is saying is that, people get obsessed about the gifts in these people, and he's talking about how what's really important is that these famous people. What sparked this whole conversation is somebody posted a prophetic word from a supposed prophet guy that I've actually never heard of. But why I decided to make a video is they mentioned Kim Clement. Now, Kim Clement, what's interesting, and I'm not trying to disrespect Kim Clement, but that is one of the only Christians I've ever met in person, in a context where, the no lights, no cameras, we were just at a store. I was at a store and he was there shopping. And he was a total douche to me. Promise. It was really weird. It really, really, really floored me. It really floored me, honestly. He was a total douche. He was totally pulled a celebrity head trip on me, like, how dare you talk to me, peasant type thing. And it really threw me. Now, I've met a lot of celebrities out here in Southern California. I live in Southern California, and honestly, you meet celebrities all the time. It's not that big of a deal. Normally, I avoid if you see somebody shopping at a store. I think it was about 10 years ago, he was shopping, getting Christmas gifts. Normally, I avoid if you see the celebrity going up to them being like, hi, but I figured because he's a Christian, okay, it's rare. I've met a bunch of famous Christians only in the context of ministry. We go do some TV tapings down the road here. I've met a lot of people face to face, like Benny Hinn or, I can't even remember. A lot of them. But in the context of you're at a TV taping or you're in the audience and you have some face-to-face interaction with a prominent Christian, there's some awareness there, okay? The reason why I just approached Kim Clement with unself-consciously be like, hey, how are you? Let's chat about what you do. I think you're really interesting. Is because the Bible teaches us, the practicing Christian, that we're supposed to minister to Mr. Nobody who comes up and wants to chat. That which you have done unto the least of my children teaches you quite clearly. So I kind of half expected him. Now call me dumb, because I doubt I'd make this mistake today, but I made it then. By virtue of the fact that this was a famous Christian, I kind of half expected him to be totally cool to me and totally ministering. As if he were actually walking in, he was actually practicing what he probably preached 1,000 times a day. What you do to the least of the children, the guy in the street who's nobody who comes up to you, you need to minister to that person too. Well, here I was, and he totally stuck his hand in my face and later for you. I don't got time for this crap. And I swear to God, I met hundreds of celebrities out here, and he's the worst I ever met. Honestly. Now, that could be by the fact that, okay, when I grew up in New York, and I've told this story to friends and family numerous times. I don't think I've ever said it on Twitter or on YouTube. But when I grew up in New York, I never met a single celebrity in my life. You can live in New York your whole life, never see a celebrity. I moved out here, I've met hundreds, literally hundreds. I used to work in a Malibu Radio Shack for about 5 years. 5-6 years. And every other day, a famous person would come in. So I met every single celebrity you could ever think of just about. And worked with them, sold them stuff, sold them products. And all of them, almost to a man, were cool to me. Tom Hanks, relatively cool. Bruce Willis, relatively cool. Governor Schwarzenegger, when he was the governor, pretty nice, pretty decent. Ozzy Osbourne, believe it or not, really nice, really out there and crazy, but really nice. He was like a sweethearted, good guy. Yeah, it threw me too. Really weird, kind of dysfunctional. I was trying to sell him batteries. He's like, let me get 4 of those, man. No, two. He's like, I was like, okay, calm down. It's like he was going to fall apart. Now, normally, by virtue of the fact that there are celebrities interacting constantly out here, you're a little bit like, you don't want to be that guy that's like, hi, I love your work, But sometimes I do that. For example, Dick Van Dyke was a local yokel. Everybody out here pretty much knows him. He's famously really nice, If you run into him, he's really nice, really friendly, really amiable. Some of you might not remember who Dick Van Dyke is. Check out Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. It's like the penultimate children's film. You know, I watched it 10 times when I was a kid. But so I stopped him once or twice. He used to come in Radio Shack all the time. And there's a famous thing out here, Dick Van Dyke chocolates. He gives to everyone at Christmas time. So if you're in a store, I'm like, hey, those are Dick Van Dyke chocolates. It's like, yeah, they are. Dick Van Dyke did his wife Popeye and gave him a box of chocolates. I swear to God, it's a very known type of chocolate. But I saw him in a CVS. And I approached him because I had just found out that Chitty Chitty Bang Bang was filmed in Rothenburg ob Tom. Yeah, really weird aside, but it's true. Rothenburg is this really famous tourist destination in Germany because it's a fairy tale village. It's a really cool looking old German village. And I just found out that Chitty Chitty Bang Bang was filmed there. So I was like, hey, Dick, I just realized that Chitty Chitty Bang Bang was filmed in Rothenburg, and he was really friendly. You know, he might have been like, who's this guy? I don't care, leave me alone, peasant. But he didn't act that way. And another time I ran into him, and I noticed, again, same person, different time. Just to give you an example of how celebrities should act when normal people come up to them. Another time I ran into him, I had seen his picture up. There's a little local English pub that me and my wife go to in Santa Monica. It's called Ye Old King's Head. And it's kind of like, it's an English pub transplanted. They try to make it authentic English food. We used to go there all the time because my wife's mother is half English. So we used to go there a lot. We haven't gone in years. And his picture was on the wall there because he'd had breakfast there one time. So again, I saw him at the Radio Shack. I'm like, Dick, I just saw your picture in Ye Old King's Head. Your picture's on the wall. He's like, oh yeah, I love English food. Chatty, amiable. He may have been internally like, oh God, leave me alone. Leave me alone, you dopey nobody. But he didn't act that. He didn't act that at all. As far as I knew, he was just, you know, very nice, very warm. Which leads us to Kim Clement. And I was really floored that he acted like it, but he's probably the only person who did out of maybe 200 celebrities I've met in person. And they're a lot more famous than Kim Clement, by the way, a lot more famous. I mean, every single person knows who Governor Schwarzenegger is, right? Every one of you knows who Tom Cruise or Tom Hanks is. Bruce Willis, I met, who's the Iron Man guy? Robert Downey Jr., I met him. It was before he was Iron Man, though. Okay, all of them were cool to me. Much bigger celebrities than Kim Clement. Does everybody listening know who that is? Probably a lot. If you're an atheist, you probably don't. It's not that famous. It's not exactly a household name. Some of the people I met, Leonardo DiCaprio, household name. Totally nice, totally cool, totally down to earth. Kim Clement immediately took attitude with me, floored me. Acted immediately like one of these obnoxious celebrities, like, who on earth are you to be talking to me? Couldn't believe it. I honestly couldn't. I almost said to him, look, you know, are you a Christian or not? You know, I almost did. I almost called him on it. I was about to. But I figured by virtue of the fact that he was a Christian that he'd be a lot more, hi, how are you? You know, call me dumb. But I would think that's how a Christian would act when they are out in public, just by virtue of the fact that people know you're a practicing Christian. And they're going to be looking at your fruits. And they're going to be seeing if you walk the walk. And I promise you, from that day forward, I went home, told my wife about it. My wife couldn't believe it. And I never listened to a single prophecy of his ever again. Didn't care what he had to say anymore. Because I was like, you know. Now, it could have been an off day. Don't take this the wrong way. I'm not saying Kim Clement is a bad guy. He's terrible. It could have been an off day. Maybe he was struggling with something and he really honestly was just, you know, maybe I was a little more annoying than I seemed. And with other celebrities, I'm very much aware of the fact that that dynamic is potentially in play. You know, that like, why are you bothering me? For example, I've run into Anthony Kiedis twice. Once in the supermarket right down the street, and the other place, the other time in some random store. I was Christmas shopping. Now, I was a lot more standoffish with Anthony Kiedis by virtue of the fact that I was aware that he might be a little bit annoyed, but like, who's this nobody trying? And now Anthony Kiedis, I've read some of his books, I know his music pretty well, and I know the music that influenced him. So I had a lot to say to him, just like I had to Kim Clement. So I could have just approached him and been like, hey, you know, the band X was really big. I love the band X, because I know the influences on the Chili Peppers. I've read some of his biography, and I know the same music. So I thought maybe he'd, you know, talk about Black Flag, X, the bands that the Red Hot Chili Peppers would listen to. He'd be cool. It'd be a cool conversation. And I saw the Red Hot Chili Peppers a long time before they were famous. Right on when they were verged on becoming famous. Thought he might be interested in that too. So I kind of thought I might have something to say to him that was a little bit different than, oh, I love you, you're so awesome. You know, that he might be interested in talking about. But I didn't do it. So I didn't give him the opportunity to be like, oh, God, please, leave me alone, you peasant. So he might have been, because he was looking at me. When you run into a celebrity, you kind of gauge it out. Because he was looking at, giving me the look of like, oh, boy. You know, I don't really want to stop and play mayor of Malibu right now. So why are you looking at me like that? I could tell by the look in his eyes. He wasn't really like, you know, he knew I recognized him, and he's looking at me like, here, this guy recognized me, and here he comes, and now I got to talk to him. Now I got to pretend like I care anything he's got to say for the next 5 minutes. So I kind of understood that that dynamic was potentially in play. Now maybe I was overrating. I'll probably never make this mistake again. I will treat a celebrity Christian just like any other celebrity and be a little bit hesitant to be like, hey, how are you? You know, I love your work. Oh, I'm so impressed with you. Blah, blah, blah. You're so awesome, because that's what they hear 1,000 times a day, and it gets old. Now, Kim Clement shouldn't be hearing that 1,000 times a day. And by virtue of the fact that he is a prominent Christian, I kind of do hold him to a higher standard of accountability. The Bible does clearly say, that which you have done unto the least of my children, you have done unto me. Now, in that particular situation, I qualified as the least of his children. So I was really deeply, like, not cool. Deeply disappointed with how he acted towards me that day. Take it with a grain of salt. Not trying to trash him. I'm just saying, there's a lesson in here somewhere. You know? There's a lesson in here somewhere. If you are a famous Christian or a celebrity Christian, you do have to, when nobody's looking, walk the walk. Walk the walk. Otherwise, you know, you'll disappoint someone in Malibu. You'll disappoint a Christian in Malibu. I don't know. Otherwise, you know, I think that's actually really important. I was really floored about how he acted. From that day forward, I never listened to a single utterance of his ever again. Totally wrote him off because I saw how he acted. You know, he might as well have been like one of these. You know, you hear about these like dipstick celebrities who you approach them and they. I don't know. My wife has hundreds of stories of like these because she used to work backstage for all these. When we first moved out here, my wife was pretty big in working for celebrities. She did a lot of, you know, she'd go. I did it a couple times. I'd go be a seat filler at some of like the Grammys and things like that. What it is it's pretty fun. You put on a suit, and if you know, if somebody doesn't show up, they want you to sit there so that when the camera pans, it looks like a full shot. So you put on a suit, and if somebody doesn't show up, you sit there for the night. It's kind of cool. Sat at the table with like the Sopranos. You know, you meet some interesting people. I met like Will Smith. It's fun. It's fun. It's kind of a cool thing to do when you first move out to LA because you meet a lot of celebrities, and like my wife used to work for them. She'd be one of the people helping set those things up. She hasn't done it in a long time. But so you get a sense of what some of these people are like, and some of them are really vapid, as you would expect. Some of them are really vapid, you know, self-important, blowhard, narcissistic douchebags, exactly like you would think they would be. But I would never expect a famous Christian to have any trace of that in their personality. That's the point. It really threw me. Now, I might be dumb. It might be common. It might be common. You know, I'm sure a lot of people listening to this video doesn't surprise them that a Christian is a total poser or potentially a total poser. You know, so on the surface he's saying XYZ, PDQ and preaching to have a pure heart and be a humble human being, and you know, off stage he's a triggered out narcissistic celebrity douchebag just like any other person. It probably doesn't surprise a lot of atheists, but it really threw me. You know, I ascribe to a lot of these people sincerity behind most of what they do. I know atheists don't, but I do. So when I suspected that there wasn't it, or that he was on a star turn, I didn't really know what to make of it. I was dumbfounded. So there you have it. You know, make of it what you will. Again, to be charitable, he could have been It could have been a one-off. You know, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt in hindsight and say it was a one-off. Maybe he was having a bad day. Maybe someone's in the hospital and he's just not doing well. So he was, you know, less cool to me than he might otherwise would have been. So there you have it, kids. Just thought I'd tell that little story. That is all for now. Mass is ended. Go in peace. Amen.